Welcome back to Otaku no Video. As always, thank you very much for joining me, where I'm in a bit of trouble because I am going to review Gundam 0083 Stardust Memory in this review. And a lot of folks love 0083. For a lot of folks, it's their favorite Gundam series. And unfortunately, this is my least favorite Gundam series. Bottom of the barrel. And before I get anyone jumping to the comments to say, no, it's awesome, let me explain my reasons. And we'll start with the animation and the art, because that's something that a lot of fans point to. The animation certainly is well budgeted, a lot of sheets in there, a lot of animation cell sheets. And they brought in Shoji Kawamori as the primary mecha designer. Now, he is one of the premier mecha designers of all time. He designed the Valkyries, or Veritex, in original Macross, and a bunch of other things. So that's a big thing, and I mean, certainly the stuff he designs is lovely. I mean, he designed the Hero Gundam in this, and for my money, it's probably my favorite Hero Gundam design. Unfortunately, despite there being a strong budget for this OVA, especially given the time it was made in the 90s, pretty unremarkable animation. It certainly gets across what it needs to, but there's very little I remember of the actual animation. And this is a 13 episode, that's actually one of the big problems. This is a 13 episode OVA, and there's very little I can remember of it at all. Period. So the animation certainly works, but is unremarkable, except for one sequence about a third of the way through, again, no spoilers here, where the main character gets into this sort of duel. And in fact, that's one of the other issues I have, the characters. The main character is this pilot named Ko. He's a rookie, and he ends up getting involved, getting a Gundam. And I can't quite figure out why Sunrise chose to make Ko the main character. He is not particularly heroic, okay, but his foibles don't really get him into trouble either. He gets into trouble, but that's because most of his other coworkers are jerks. And the issue I have is that if you want to make a dramatically interesting story, your character can be either heroic or, very virtuous, which is what gets him or her in trouble, or can be flawed, which is what gets her or him in trouble. Ko kind of isn't either of those. He's sort of milquetoast. So the fact that he's just sort of sitting there really doesn't do much of anything for me. Then you have our antagonist, Annabelle Gato. Now, lots of folks love Gato, and I can't quite figure out why. Now, Gato's certainly an interesting character. He's put himself in a dangerous position, but we spend very little time with Gato, and I really don't get a good understanding from that time of who Gato actually is, what he's trying to accomplish. Why is he doing this? He says some things publicly, he says a few things privately, but there's really not much to really grip onto there for character. And again, we get 13 episodes of this, and by the end I feel like I really don't know Annabelle Gato. Problematic. So he turns into basically just a villain. He's just there to be, against the good guys. The rest of the characters are pretty one-note characters, frankly. It's not a spoiler to say the main character, Ko, ends up having a romantic interest in one of the girls, and she's a pretty one-note character. There's just not much interesting for the characters. So I'm watching this and I'm thinking, okay, 13 episodes, work-a-day animation, pretty mediocre characters. The plot better be pretty darn awesome. The plot certainly moves forward. There's a big problem, one that will be very familiar to you if you've watched much Gundam. And this is 0083 was made far enough along that the fact that it was using cliches, were well-known established cliches by this point. I mean, it wasn't really doing much new. And the problem for me is the ending. No spoilers here, but I found the ending deeply and fundamentally unsatisfying and wrong on at least two major levels. Just so I don't spoil it for anybody, if you're curious about those two levels, please feel free to message me privately. I'll be glad to talk with you about those. That's a problem when you go through 13 full episodes to come to this ending that just sort of falls apart, for me at least. So Yeah, 0083 really did not work for me. Now, if you like it, that's great, but I'm just saying it just did not work for me at all. It's a bit of a mess, frankly. Dunno. So those are my thoughts on 0083. If you'd like to watch 0083, by the way, please stop by streamsuki.com, where I maintain a website that indexes a bunch of the different free legal anime streaming sites out there, so you may be able to catch 0083 streaming legally somewhere. If you want to talk more about anime like 0083, please stop by my website, otakunovideo.net, where we talk about stuff like this. So, thank you for joining me for this. Sorry if I disappointed you with my review, but hey, that's what I'm here for. I tell the truth, not what you want. Sorry. And so those are my thoughts on 0083. Thanks for watching. A bell?